How's everybody doing? Tonight will be my 28th discussion. Tonight I'm speaking with the legendary frontman Tim Singer of Deadguy, No Escape, Bitter Branches, Process Black. Uh, just unbelievable that I get to talk to him. He's been one of my favorites of all time, and I can't wait to talk to him. Hope everybody's doing good. Hope everybody's safe, wearing masks. It's gonna snow like crazy in New England tomorrow night. So hope everybody stays safe. Everybody keeps their power. Just waiting for Tim to jump on right now.
Oh,
Tim, how you doing?
all right.
Perfect. I want to thank you for doing this. I appreciate it. For taking the time out to talk to me for an hour or so. I know you're busy. So, do you still live in the Northeast or are you out west? So,
I'm in Philly, and it's dumping right now.
oh, it's not. Yeah, I know it's coming up here in New Hampshire tomorrow, like probably midday.
Yeah, so I was gonna have some dad duties, but now we're just sort of housebound, so it's all good.
Yeah. Well, like I said again, I appreciate you taking the time out to speak with me. Um, so usually, like how we get started is, I just want to ask how you got into hardcore and punk to begin with, and what drew you to listen to that type of music.
That's like I talk loud, so I'm gonna close my office door. I just realized something bothered my father.
Okay.
Yeah, I got my 19-year-old's back home, and she's doing top from home. But how did I get into punk rock? That was, I had the classic. First of all, I grew up in New York City. Um, So I I already had an older brother who was into punk, and we'd go into the city, and it was this is mid '80s where if you saw someone with a mohawk or colored hair, it was like stop presses, holy shit! You'd go home and talk about tell your friend you saw someone with blue hair, which is really funny by today's standards. Um, and then my brother, I don't know how he got into it, but he's 4 years older than me. He started going to shows like Lower East Side, CBGB, stuff like that, seeing Agnostic Front, bands like that. And because he's my brother, and I used to like to hang out in his room and act cool and listen to Sex Pistols and Ramones and shit like that. Um, he started bringing I remember there was a Dead Kennedys, Too Drunk to Fuck 7 inch. There was the Suicidal Tendencies album, like some stuff that's sort of classic today. I think Minor Threat he might have introduced me to, and then I started going to there was big shows at the Ritz in New York with bands like every week it seemed like it was like Circle Jerks, Dead Kennedys, Black Flag, DOA, GBH, like, and so there's about a handful of it's a total like '80s movie where there's like five of us misfits who were into to the city. You know, one of us looked like a mod. Some of us looked like DC shaved head. Minor Threat kids. They're the kid who tries all the adornments all over himself, trying to super punk. Like all the whatever we could cobble together. We'd take trips to the city, and even when there wasn't shows, we'd like wander around the Lower East Side and go to like Venus Records, Bleecker Bob's, and just buy shit that looked cool. Or back then too, like you would talk to a stranger, they were wearing like a cool T-shirt. I remember real early on before I did anything as far as being involved in any kind of Gavin Van Black, who's been in Burn and everything else. Just because we were both perusing records at Venus Records, buy anything and everything on this record label called a you can find it because I started wearing that SSD sweatshirt. So I don't know. It's like luckily I think it was like my brother, so he had a car if you want to go places. My best friend and my stepbrother, my age. we all got into it and became our thing. And I was pissed off at the world for a million reasons, and didn't, it was the classic. I was related to that Minor Threat song of just um, don't smoke, don't drink, don't fuck, like. And it wasn't about straight edge. It was about just like not giving a shit about stuff everybody seemed to give a shit. That song said to me. Um, yeah, and then that heyday of they're just great shows. I mean, I went to a bunch of shows at the Ritz. Seeing the Cro-Mags at the Ritz was like a religious experience, right? And then seeing Agnostic Front at CBGB's was like, to me, the first real show where it was like, you know, CBGB's tiny place. The band's like 4 feet off the ground. There's no real back, and you can talk to the band afterward. You can hop up on stage, sing along. In the pit is a who's who of the other. You know what I mean? Like, I remember seeing Harley Flanagan in the pit. Holy fuck, the dude,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. So, and then CB's just became a habit. Going to CBGB's, all that kind of stuff. And like, I remember seeing Youth up for in youth at the Danceteria, and so I was like, holy fuck, these straight edge kids in New York who were pissed. Like, that was a novelty back. The first time I saw them at CB's, it was like less than half full. At the end, it was like standing room, and luckily I knew some guys in the band that I could be, behind the stage. So that's sort of how I got into it, you know.
And is that how you kind of wanted to be in a band? I know you did Boiling Point with your brother. Was that magazine from Boston, or did you guys do it in New York or New Jersey?
So my stepbrother, who I really just call my brother, Dennis, he's going to college up in New York. So he's going to, I think, Emerson. And I think Wrecking Crew and Flapshot and a couple other bands were like the shit back then. And yeah, he literally was like, we're starting a zine, and I want to call it Boiling because of SSD. And I was like, sure, that sounds awesome. I was already going to school for design and stuff, and we all were real photography and taking pictures of bands anyway. I was already like silk screening shit just on my own, like I'd silk screen like side by side shirts and Grill Biscuit shirts just for shits and giggles. And I'd go up to the show, and the bands would see me like wearing these shirts and be like, "Can you make more?" Yeah. So Dennis gets the credit for starting the zine. He was so it was like a Boston, and I was living in Pennsylvania at the time. So it was like we thought it was a East Coast zine.
Yeah.
And we didn't even try to think of it as a straight edge zine because like we were determined to have like a non-straight edge view through at least one band because that was so big back then, and we didn't want to be too pigeonholed, even though that was what we were listening to.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I guess it was sort of a Boston, like Dave Smalley was in 2.5, and DYF was like, we loved all that old Boston shit. So
Yeah. So after doing that and taking pictures and doing interviews, were you like, I want to be in a band for that, or did that kind of come simultaneously, like hand in hand?
I mean, I have no musical talent, right? So when you have no musical talent and you hang out with bands and you roadie and take pictures and interview them and become friends with them, I'm like, well, if I'm ever going to be in a band, I'll have to be the singer. Like, and I would like write lyrics and shit like that, that if I look back today, they're no good. But so it was like a fantasy, right? And I would talk to different people. Like, my first band was No Escape, and I remember Steve-O. Like, the nice thing is bands used to stay at my apartment in Brooklyn when they tour. So that's kinds of like bands like Chain of Strength and Turning Point and stuff like that. And I remember talking about it with Steve-O from No Escape when he was at my apartment. Like, I'd love to do a band today, and I want it to be sort of like Youth of Today solution, like back when you sort of thought in those terms back then, like this band meets this band would be cool, and then as luck would have it, I ended up living with Steve-O when I left the city, moved to Ocean City, New Jersey. He came home one day, had like a practice tape with a bunch of songs, and we'd already chatted about it like a year ago. Before that, we had just sort of talked about doing something, and we like sat next to each other, listened to it, put lyrics to the. By the time I went to my first practice, fucking shit in the brick, right? Because I'm like, what if I, you know?
Yeah.
Because in your mind, I'm like, in my mind, I sound like Ian McCall meets, Ray of Today meets whatever,
Yeah.
But you don't know, right? Because like it's not like I'm singing in the shower and trying to, and like recording my acoustics or something. But the great thing was I went to practice and like I think I knew 3 songs from just being maniacally obsessed, like figuring the shit out. Um, and it felt good and sounded good based on the reaction of everybody else in the room. And then I never looked back. That it wasn't in my DNA. There's no real in my family. My brother plays guitar and stuff like that. Like we come from some lineage of this. Like he's self-taught because of punk rock too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was never even a kid to get up in front of class, so it wasn't like I'm not some extrovert. But it's something like I don't know. I feel this need to uh, tap into that side and express that side of me. I think records like Suicidal Tendencies. I don't know. These records spoke to me in a way where like if they're having these crazy times that I can relate to, that I'm not so crazy, right? And I always felt so compelled to share that. Like everybody's so busy trying to look happy and cool. I find sharing a little bit of what's behind the curtain, so to speak.
Yeah. Were you now on your first show that you did with No Escape? Were you nervous when you first went out on stage?
Yeah, I just discussed that with somebody the other day because there's that new documentary, the Beyond documentary, that Kevin put out, and they talk about the van that broke down all the time, and so the first No Escape show was No Escape, Burn, and Quicksand, and Quicksand was super late because I think they were Beyond van, and we were late, so we played after Burn. But we saw the broken down Beyond van way to the show. Someone had to remind me. I was literally in the back of, I think I had a minivan back then, and we had to drive from South Jersey to the Anthrax, Connecticut. And the whole time, I'm just sitting in the back talking to me because I'm either going to puke or shit my pants. I'm so fucking. And we hadn't been together that long. You know what I mean? Like back then, you play, like, I think we had 5 songs, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it happened quick. Next thing I know, and it's like, this is not a small show. This is at the Anthrax with Burn and Quicksand. This is a pretty killer fucking bill.
Yeah. For a first show, definitely.
And it's almost worse because like I knew so many people at the. It wasn't like, oh, let's go play an anonymous thing and just see how, see how this works out and like get that first show behind us. It was like, oh no, it's like some fucking killer bill.
Yeah.
And it was like a 5-hour drive or whatever. It's some ridiculous drive. So all I could do was sit there and be nervous forever. And I remember, I think Adam from Life's Blood, I think it was somebody had a flyer to like read before the show, animal rights or something. And I'm like, I don't even know if I can read this fucking flyer. Fucking. And the second I got up there, I was fine. There's something about the music, I start hearing the guitar, the little drum track, and I'm fine. And I'm like in my zone. And I was like, thank God, because I was like,
Yeah.
I forget the fucking words, like, like, yeah. So yes, I was nervous.
So No Escape started in 1990, right? With the demo, and then the last thing that you guys put out was in '95. Besides the new single that you put out this year, right? Because you guys you're working on new stuff right now, right?
Like No Escape was probably around 90 to like 93, maybe. Maybe so. Yeah, the demo we circulated for a while. Still love that demo. And then I think Silence came out in a comp, and then Framework and something else came out on the Point Split. And then when the album finally came, I think I was already in Deadguy because I remember like I was in New Brunswick, where Deadguy was born, and I remember listening to it like with the drummer, it's kind of fun. my rearview mirror, and Deadguy was so different, and I was in such a different space. But I remember it was cool because I remember, like, you know, I knew the people who worked at the record store, and I saw the No Escape CD. You know, I was psyched it all came out, and we broke up pretty amicably. It's not like we had some big fight. It was, you know, classic creative differences. They wanted to sort of rock out a little bit more. And I'm not talking out of turn. They would tell you to do.
Yeah.
And I did not. Like I had this like thing where, like when something gets big, the punk in me wants to go the other direction, right? So I was knee deep in through worlds, all friends of mine, and I wanted to do something like less. You know, I wanted to take a hard, and I thought Quicksand hard turn from that, which I thought was super interesting. I was like, I'm gonna go the other way. Like
Yeah.
I love fucking like SSD. One of my favorite SSD songs is How Much Art, right? I love fucking just thick, ugly stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm good at it, right? I mean, I know my lane. You know, I'm also, I can't do Quicksand. That's not my lane, right?
Yeah.
I remember asking up Walter, I'm like, how the hell did you do that? I was like, I didn't know you had it in you. He's like, I just did it until it worked. Like, he just figured it out. So he's awesome in that regard. But, you know, but my heroes were like Ian Mackay, Henry Rollins, things of that nature, right? Contemporaries I thought that were awesome were like Zach from Out, who, you know, bigger things. And, you know, the first song I ever sang out loud to was before the No Escape practice. There's this space in New Jersey called at John Hill's house. They used to have shows all the time, Westfield, New Jersey. And there's also a practice space and a Chain of Strength cover just for shits and giggles. And people were like, yeah, that sounds pretty good. So funny because I was like, oh, maybe that's my lane, right? I sort of Strength or Inside Out or those kind of bands. Yeah.
Now, did you get into the straight edge wave back then? Did you have a little phase where you were straight edge, or did it kind of just like you were like, oh, that's cool, but you know, it's not my thing? Or
no, I was definitely straight edge on and off. And No Escape, I don't think I really was. The whole time I'm kissing about completely straight edge, but not in a nail to the X kind of way. Like, you know, I took from it like it was. I thought it was a really important message to hear when I was young. To kind of not just go, and the culture's so different now. I've got 3 kids. Like my oldest daughter's 19, completely straight, not socially weird. So no, I mean, in Boiling Point, I think I was for the most part. I think I like twice in my life just for shits and giggles, but I never felt this thing like I'm straight edge and you're not. Like I never had that sort of like any band that ever some like not even a discussion, you know, like and honestly I'm more interested if you're vegan than straight edge. And even that's not really a criteria. Like, you know, I think Deadguy, we might have mostly no, there are some partiers. You know, but it's like, I don't know. So no, I guess I wasn't super into it. I think I got lumped into it quite a bit. Boiling Point, I think of as a straight edge zine. And even though Escape gets sort of lumped into it, we were never on that sort of trip, you know?
yeah,
And like, I don't know, to me, like those are like these sort of hardcore topics that I wanted to get beyond when I was in Deadguy, especially. And the funny thing is, it's still a topic that comes up, right? Like there's Deadguy, like, you know, God sent mom to Pennsylvania, only steps. It's actually how I think the whole 12 is a cult, right? From my personal experience growing up. And like, so I don't know, one of those, I'll explore the topic, but not in any kind of like, I don't do it, you do it kind of like.
yeah, not like a hard line way.
Yeah, you know, and you know, I do also recognize like so much of the culture in this world is built around alcohol and drugs, and I think that's lame, right? I think it's kind of, you know, to feel cool because you drink whiskey or don't drink whiskey just seems stupid to me. Um, and I'll write about stuff like that, but I'll write about it in a way where it's the human condition that fascinates me than whether or not someone's passing a purity test, you know.
Yeah. What you mentioned, Henry Rollins, and I feel like for me, you are kind of like the modern day Henry Rollins, just because of like how he kind of pronunciate his lyrics so you could hear everything he was saying. And Deadguy was so heavy, and Kissing Goodbye was so heavy, but you could like hear pretty much every word you were saying, which like I think is amazing. And it's very similar between you two, in my eyes.
Right.
And
No, I think that's a good observation because I hate what I call them blurry vocals. All of a sudden, it became sort of Cookie Monster, and if people could hit that note or whatever, I don't know if it's a note, but that sound, and I feel like it's a way of hiding. Right? There's people like like I sweat the lyrics because I enunciate them. I work hard on them. I express them when we go into the studio or play live. It matters a lot to me to actually enunciate, and hopefully people can understand what I'm saying. And I get it, like the genre that like certain people are just gonna I sound like everybody else, but I do feel like, so I appreciate that observation because that's something that, like, I was a Henry Rollins sort of worshiper in the 90s especially, um, and I thought him and John Brandon and certain people just like could be pissed off but still be like understood and sort of distinct voice. Like I thought that was super important. You know what I mean? Warts and all, to sort of find out what your true voice sounds. That's what I strive for anyway.
yeah, and I mean, and you can be super heavy because Deadguy and Kissing Goodbye are really heavy bands. You don't have to, I love that other. I don't uh, like Cookie Monster sounds, but I like heavy screaming where sometimes I can't hear the lyrics. I still like that too. But you guys were just so unique in that sense, especially when you guys were on Victory on that wave where Earth Crisis, Integrity, Snapcase, Strike, and I felt like Deadguy and Integrity were like the more heavier of the that wave that came in. Can you just tell me a little bit about getting on Victory and being label mates with all those bands? And,
Yeah, well, the funny thing with, like, I remember, like, I'm an old head, so Victory to me was like this new label. Like, like to me, like, I grew up on Discord, Alternative Tentacles, Go, SSP, things like that, right? Um, and like even Revelation was like a new label to me in my mind, right? A cool new label. I thought it was like new probably has like its Discord, right? Like, and it made sense because there's such a thriving scene. And I thought it was like beginning, especially I was like Warzone, Sick of It All, Side by Side, Youth of Today. The bands were different enough, you know what I mean, within a space. But yeah, so Deadguy was almost like a wave behind, right? Like, and so the guys were a little younger than me, and I didn't really know much. Funny thing, like, I actually called up Red, and I was like, I'm in this band, Deadguy. We seem to be doing it, right. Like, everybody likes us at come to our shows and yada yada. And Jordan was like, yeah, I don't quite understand. Like, but I love Jordan. We're friends.
yeah,
He just didn't quite. I mean, a lot of people didn't understand us at the time, right? So he's just like, yeah, I think I have to pass, right? Like, because we didn't really sound like anybody else, and I got it, but I had to ask, right? um, and so first we were on Engine Record with Bill Wilson, who's like part of that whole sort of Raw Deal posse work, and I think he might have been having trouble coming up with the funds to get the LP out, promoted and supported enough. Dave the drummer for that, and so Dave was the one. I've been talking to Victory, and they can do it, and the whole thing happened in a hot second, and Yeah, I mean, that's when I actually discovered like Snapcase and bands like Integrity. I had seen a bunch, so I thought they were, and I thought they had their own thing, and I totally appreciated it. I like Snapcase, Bloodlet. I don't even, was Bloodlet on Victory? I don't even.
Yeah, they were. Yep.
I mean, I met them when they handed me a demo when I was in No Escape playing a show in Florida. You know, so yeah, I thought it was a good place. I thought um, these are bands doing what they do really well, and not and they're not all versions of each other, which is what I always sort of hope for in terms of like finding a place on a label or something, right? I don't want to be on I'm not bands that I think really fit into a big jar of sameness with a bunch of other bands, but I'm not really interested in labels like that, shows like that, you know, like they all sound derivative of something. So I thought Victory is kind of cool in that regard, and they felt like the next cool thing. But I didn't give a whole lot of thought to Victory. It was more like we got in the van and toured, and you know, uh, and sort of broke up before we really could appreciate it. Sad.
Yeah, because the year after you left Deadguy, the Victory put on that Bloodlet Deadguy tour. Right? That
Yeah, yeah,
was like probably more set up better than the first tour that you did. Correct?
yeah. And I literally, you would know more about that because I had to sort of I quickly put Deadguy in the rearview mirror, um, like I guess I quit. Like I basically um, said I'm moving to Seattle and we can do the bands remotely, but for personal reasons, I just wanted to move to Seattle. Um, and the band we couldn't agree to make that work. So then that ended it quick. And then Keith was like, "Well, if you're not, I want to quit too." And then I'm going to get Andrew and Tom. He's basically I'm going to Rorschach back together, but with singing is basically what it turned out to be, right? And we were practicing right away.
Yeah.
You know, he's like, "I'm going to get them to join, and we're all going to move to Seattle." I was like, "Okay." And then, so instantly, Kiss Goodbye playing all the time. Next thing I know, we're playing CBs and opening up for Napalm Death and shit like that. And so I'm busy doing that and writing, a demo for that. And then meanwhile, Deadguy doing their thing and continuing to play shows. But I didn't pay attention. It's too weird, painful too, to just the idea of seeing someone else sing my lyrics and stuff. I wasn't really interested in, you know.
Yeah. And what was your take on Screaming with the Deadguy Quintet album? Was it something that you liked, or was it?
I I might have heard it once. So when I was recording the Kiss Goodbye album, Billy Anderson was producing it, and he played some music in the studio. He's like, "Tim, check this out. I want to know what you think, right?" And he played it. I was like, "Oh, it's pretty good," you know. I was like, "I don't know if I love the vocals, but it's pretty good." And he's like, "Oh, it's fucking Deadguy, busted! You fucking like in my face," and I'm not surprised, right? Like, you know, Dave and Crispy were the primary songwriters before Keith came along. I still like how they write, but that was it. That's the only time I heard it. So I couldn't. I don't. I've never heard the record beyond that. I have no idea what you know.
Yeah. So when Deadguy first got together, like after No Escape, how long was it before Deadguy got together? Like in between No Escape and Deadguy, and White Meat was the first 7-inch you guys put out. That was the first thing.
Yeah,
Ah,
I found this today in my office. Um, it was pretty quick. So like I went back to college. Is basically what happened with No Escape, and I mean we were already sort of fizzling, and so I moved to New Brunswick. I ran into Dave. Um, he was jumping Lifetime time, real early Lifetime, and I think Crispy had just left Lifetime. It was like real early stages of Lifetime, and I don't know, Dave, I think, hit me on the street and sort of knew who I was, and we hit it off really. And then Dave and we jammed with this other band that played one show that was called, I think we were called Pop. But it was one of those like the guitar player didn't understand my kind of vocals, like they're like writing these songs, and then I would like scream bloody murder over it, and he would like. I remember him being like, "You try singing it like this." I like I'm not the guy for you, right? We played one show, like 3 songs, and it's funny. Like, made it into the school paper, which was like the funny thing. I'm like, oh my god. So I guess that's the that I was in, but that lasted like a hot minute. So Deadguy happened pretty quick. I mean, I don't remember the exact chronology, but like we wrote a bunch of tunes real pretty fast, and just we played the backyard of our practice space. I have pictures of that. I mean, back then, like get together, jam, and then play. And we
Yeah.
all sort of, and New Brunswick was a great place for like shows. Like there's a lot of house, small clubs. So it's just easy to, and in Rutgers itself, like the university actually promotes the arts pretty well. Like there's campus shows and shit like that. It's actually cool. I don't know if it's still that way, but I was talking to a friend I went to college with, and like, he booked Radiohead and shit like that. Booked Rage Against the Machine, booked Boys, Rollins Band, and could pay these bands all out of like funds. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's pretty fucking cool. So I don't know, that happened fast, but our mantra was, we didn't know, but like we were like, fuck it, let's just like we're all listening to like AMREP bands and shit like that, and Unsane, As in Killman and Craw and Cows and whatever. On top of like the traditional hardcore stuff, we just figured we'd throw it all in there and see what the hell happened. And I was just like, sounds like I'm in Black Flag. Cool.
Yeah, I mean, work ethic and fixation of the coworker is by far like it stands up till like now. It stood the test of time. A lot of people in New England, and the band that I sent the song to you, Network, did a bunch of my friends. That guy was such a huge influence on the people in my friends around here, like Fixation is a classic album, and to me, work ethic is a classic album. I listen to that shit all the time, and I love it. And like I said, it had an influence on that band, the Network, who was they were the band called Fault before that, and also a band that we used to hang around with called Ukla the Mock. So I mean, those two things had a huge impact on bands around here.
Yeah, it's one of those things, like it's sort of gratifying to hear, right? And it's like you have no idea when you do it. You have no idea, right? Like we 5 dorks in New Jersey just trying to like make some cool music, you know. And we could tell we were sort of catching on a little bit, but we didn't think we were like taking the world or anything. And then it's like I go away from it for 20 years, and people are like, "Oh, our band formed because we met a guy at a show, and we're yeah, let's see, let's just write songs like Fixation." I mean, I've heard this from a million people, like All Failed and Breather was bands like that tell me these things, and I'm like, so it's kind of cool because we basically became that, that band that sort of like, doesn't really, not like helping out the retirement plan or anything, but I didn't do it for that. It's cool because like what else in your life, 25, 30 years later, whatever it is, like has that kind of resonance. I feel sort of humbled by that, and it's cool, you know.
So I've read the news that I don't know if it's true or not. You can tell me if it's true. Is there a Deadguy reunion or what? I keep hearing things, reading things. Is that a thing or?
It is indeed a thing. Yeah. I mean, if it wasn't for COVID, we would have played like Decibel Fest by now, and a weekend in Brooklyn at what's that, St. Vitus, right? I always forget how to say
St. Vitus, yeah.
we were supposed to play a full weekend there. We were talking about other stuff, and I mean, we still all sort of correspond regularly now. We all sort of forgot why we hated each other, which is kind of nice. This is literally a lifetime ago. Um, yeah, so it's one of those. I think we still plan to do stuff, but it's like nobody's planning. Like I'm also in another band that's more active in terms of writing new material, that kind of stuff. That's also had shows offered and then falling apart, stuff like that. And
Yeah.
if Deadguy does anything, when and if we do something, it'll be a weekend here, maybe a 10-day stretch if we really get together. But yeah, it'll happen. I'm convinced it'll happen.
Now, are you guys doing anything studio-wise, or is it you guys playing reunion shows?
I don't know. Studio will be hard. Right now, basically, well, three of us live, right? Two of the guys still pretty much live right near New Brunswick, Crispy and Tim Nauman. I live in Philly, so that the three of us are really close. Tim Nauman's not really doing any music. He'd have to really dust off his skills. Crispy is singing for Second Arrows, who I love and hell-minded. But I don't know how much he plays guitar. So it's one of those, like, we'd have to practice. We'd want to be touched because it's crazy. Like, bands that are like professional bands are like, oh my God, can't wait to play with you. And we're like, holy fuck, we better be tight. You know what I mean? Like, we can't go up there and be like fucking sloppy, and we were tight back in the day. And so that, like with Deadguy and Kiss You Goodbye, I just really became religious about the band being tight,
Yeah.
With heavy music especially, I feel like it just owed that. And then it actually helps me because I can like wander over a song if it's tight, and I can go on a tangent, come back and find my way easily, as long as like fucking up, you know what I mean? That's a selfish thing too. So but the drummer's he's stuck in Amsterdam. Like, he was trying to move back to New York area right before COVID hit. So poor Dave's stuck in Amsterdam. I mean, it's not the, but so until he moves back and then Keith New York. So
Yeah.
until Dave moves back and this COVID gets really under control, like, I don't, it's hard to plan anything, right? Because we have to be able to practice for like 2 weeks before we play the show, right? That kind of thing.
And I think it's amazing that I'll almost be 50, and I think you're a couple of years older than me, if I'm not. It's an amazing thing that you're at our age. You're doing you have your hand in so many bands like Process Black, Bitter Branches, No Escape, getting back together again. Now you're talking about Deadguy. I mean, literally, it's amazing to me that like you have your hand in everything right now, and you're busy. Even with COVID, there's still like new music popping up, new news about what Tim Singer's doing, and I mean, I salute you for doing like still going strong, in the age that we are.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where it's funny because, like, people talk about midlife crisis and shit, and I'm actually past the midlife crisis, so that's not even. I never stopped in my head. I never stopped, right? But I did. I've got two 16-year-olds and a 19-year-old, right? And I've been with the same woman since the fanzine, So I've always took my personal life very seriously. It's like, I've just been a sort of a family-minded guy forever, right? And now the kids are older, and my wife is like, "You're never happier than when you're doing something, right?" Like, and so that's why, like, I was like, maybe she's right, you know. And it's and like I never lost interest, but it's putting a band together is not easy, right?
Yeah.
So I've always just stayed open to it, you know. I don't, I'm not like, you know, I'm in shape. I'm still engaged with the, not like I'm trying to check out and, you know, collect money and things. And I don't know, I still feel a real kinship and connection to this whole scene. All the more interesting people I know age have something to do with this, right? Like I know plenty of people who I don't relate to on a personal level at all. If they think like the fact that I drink coffee out of a jar is radical, right? Like just shit like that. Like,
Yeah.
oh my God, this is so uninteresting. People, so many people are just uninteresting, you know? And I just don't, it's just like high school. It never stopped where I'm like, I don't relate, you know?
Yeah.
Um, to even how they raise their kids or whatever it is. I just don't relate, you know, like sending them to whatever. I don't want to rip, I'm not going to rip on anybody, but
Yeah.
I still feel, you know, a kinship to people that think like us. And I still feel outside, like an outsider to mainstream, you know. I've learned how to swim in the mainstream, and uh, but it's not my natural place.
And what do your kids think of all your older bands that you were in? What do they think? I was in a few bands, and I should tell my daughter. I'm like, oh, look at Daddy, like on stage or whatever, and they're like, okay, like they don't they don't even care. You know what I mean?
I actually think they think it's really cool. You know, and it's the same thing. Like my wife doesn't come to my shows or listen to my music because I wouldn't want her to like fake it and pretend like she loves it. Um, but they understand it, and they do think it's cool, and I think they really like having both their parents are just creative types that you know do interesting things and aren't just like, all right, you got to pick a really good college and you got you know whatever internship you're doing for a job or you know what I mean. Like we have just different priorities, and we spend a lot of time with together, family, you know, and do shit together. We're that kind of family. Like my teenagers like me, you know what I mean? Like not like so I don't know. I think they think it's cool, and I sort of invite them in terms of the process, and you know, like I'm in the studio. If anybody wants to come and just see what it's like, you can, or like check it out. I'm working on this record design. Like, you know, what do you think? You know, my one daughter's thinking about film school, and she might use my lyrics, you know, and to sort of try to storyboard around lyrics. And my other daughter goes to Pratt, which is an art school in New York. Right now, she's working on something to do with fanzine. She might look at my old zines and do a thing on that, right? So it's kind of, I think they sort of, I think they realize, and my wife is a photographer and super creative in her own right. So I think they've realized and appreciate that they're cool, interesting people. And I've always said, like, I want my kids to be raised by people, right? So I need to stay in person and not just 9 to 5, come home, watch TV, fall asleep, or watch football on the weekend. You know, but,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So yeah, I don't think they'll ever listen to it, but they will church.
Now, are you still doing graphic design? Because you correct me if I'm wrong, but you did all the designs for like White Meat, Work Ethic, Fixation, Be Afraid, She Loves Me Not. You were the ones that you did all that, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's my day job. Like I work for myself. I have a small agency. Um, yeah, I do it all for Bitter Branches, and um, yeah, I mean one of the cool things like Bitter Branches did a limited edition silkscreen cover with a guy who operates out of Brooklyn, you know, and a grown up punk rocker like us, and my daughter who goes to school in Brooklyn. This is right at the edge of COVID. Like we got to go visit his silkscreen place, like awesome space, you know, and he gave her a poster. And so it's kind of cool to be able to pull her into that, you know. And yeah, she sort of followed footsteps in terms of design. So now I'm like the nerdy dad. Like if she's studying typography, I'll find a book on my like leave it on her.
No, the images that you came up with are like, I don't know, they just stuck with me. And I on that note, do you still screen print shirts like you used to do? Do you create any shirts, or do you have old shirts that you used to make, like that you still have?
Well, I still have them. Some of them they've like disintegrated, and I still have some screens in my basement. And if there's just more hours in the day, you know, if I was incredibly wealthy, I love silk screening.
Yeah.
And if any of my kids get like my older daughter is super into film photography too, and we might build a dark room in our basement, you know. And I used to like when we did Boiling Point, we developed all our own negatives, made our own prints, you know. And I had an enlarger, and wherever we lived, we'd find a room that we could make dark, and that's how we print our photographs, you know. And I like all that super DIY, like all that DIY stuff has sort of come back, you know. So we have all these sort of skills. Kids are like, oh, that's cool. You know how to, you can teach me that? That's cool. Like I still have all my old press type, all that old transfer type from my fanzine days. I still have, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just wondering if you had, like, I don't know if you ever made like Crackdown shirts or Absolution or Rest in Pieces shirts, but I was just wondering if you still have those lying around.
No, the only ones that no, I only have like one Kiss Goodbye screen left and a Black Flag I made when I was on the Ultimate Frisbee team that we called Black Flag. I made Black Flag shirts. Um, no, I did, but you know, I did Raw Deal, Beyond, Youth of Today, Gorilla Biscuits. I did Sick of It All, Burn, Citizens Arrest. I mean, the list goes on and on. Killing Time, but I never did Crackdown, and I never did Rest in Pieces. So no.
Yeah, I had one question to ask you. What came up with the design for the pentagram with the goat's head for the fixation? Like, was it the album, the vinyl, the limited vinyl, and also the shirt that had that on it with the Death to False Metal? What was the like idea around that?
I don't know. I didn't do those. Those are
Oh, you
after.
didn't do those.
Oh, I mean, we taught. That was like a phrase we threw around. You know what I mean? But that happened. That was post me. That yeah. That it was probably swiped. Everything we did was like I have. And David Crispy had to do like we would just collect shit. You know. And when I did that fixation album, I just wanted it to be over the top and just have as much shit in there as possible. Like we just wanted to make it like this layer cake. I'm like, this is the kind of CD you're gonna booklet you're gonna want to take into the shitter and just look at it because there's so much shit going on. But yeah, the Death to False Metal was like I think it was like a phrase we had. But they made the shirts after I left. So those are like the iconic shirts, and I didn't do them.
Yeah, and the pentagram's on the vinyl though, right? Or like the limited vinyl, right? Because I hadn't seen that on the vinyl for a while, like until just recently.
Yeah, Keith Huckins just scored one. I've never actually seen it, like in person. I don't know who. I mean, I guess Victory did it. Like I stopped talking to Victory once I was in Kissing Goodbye because I just like I never was like trying to collect royalties or anything. I just moved on to my next thing.
Yeah.
Yes, I don't know.
During like Deadguy ending and Kiss It Goodbye era, what were the kind of bands that you played with that you enjoyed, like, you know, in that vein you guys were playing with at that time? I know you like, you know, the New York City hardcore, and you know, the punk stuff like Suicidal Tendencies and Henry Rollins, but was there any bands in that vein that you guys were playing shows with that you enjoyed listening to?
I mean, the bands I really enjoyed playing with. I toured with Unsane, and they were awesome. Unsane and Sweet Diesel. Today's the Day. We played a ton of shows with, and I thought they were amazing. And Neurosis. Deadguy played a ton of shows with Neurosis somehow. Like it seemed like every weekend we were playing with Neurosis. And this is like they had like the media thing going on. They had these like stand-up floor time. They would like this shit on like during Enemy of the Sun, whatever. So they were one of my more favorite kind of bands to play with. I'm trying to think anybody else. I mean, I think we played with this band Cable. We played
Cable's
with,
great. Cable's great. I love
yeah.
Cable. That Variable Speed Drive album is amazing to me.
Yeah, I liked Cable a lot. I mean, Deadguy played with the Veil, like, and it's funny because I didn't listen to a Veil until we played with them. I mean, I still don't listen to them, but live, holy fuck! Like,
yeah.
I was like, they hate us. Deadguy or Kissing Goodbye, I can't remember who's, but like we stayed with them. They were super cool, and I was like, this is the kind of bill I love because it's like, apples and oranges. You know what I mean? So I don't know. Different places we play with different bands. I don't know. I liked all really. Like it's like I don't know. I just love like, and half the bands I think that I would love, they might have existed for like 8 weeks. Something like
Yeah.
I remember a band called like Frame 313 from down south, who I thought were awesome, and the name of the band was like when JK got shot. The frame number of like the picture of his head,
Oh, no.
That's why I remember the name of the band. And like, yeah, I never heard about them again.
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah. No, I've never heard.
Yeah. Craw, I really liked. I don't know. There's like contemporaries that I really liked. That a lot of them were outside of hardcore, right? I always wanted to play with Helmet, never did. I don't know.
Now, did you play with Botch a lot because you moved to Seattle? Like, was that happening at that time?
I played with Botch a bunch of times. I mean, I remember seeing them at Velvet Elvis and stuff like that. And yeah, I consider them like contemporaries. And Damien, before he was in Kissing Goodbye, was in some, not 9 Spitfire, but something else. Maybe it was 9 Spitfire. He's been in like 15 bands. But there's some good bands in Seattle too. I can't remember half the names. It's been so long.
Do you remember the band The Accused? Weren't they from Seattle or around that area?
Accused? I remember. I know the name. I know who they are. I don't remember anything specific about them.
I know they had that album, Martha Splatterhead, Greatest Stories Ever Told, or something like that. They were kind of like metal, a little more metal-y, not like crazy metal, but they were hardcore,
I remember like Murder City Devils was like a band in Seattle when we were there, and like when Kissing Goodbye broke up, Tom and I, bass player from Kissing Goodbye, jammed with the Murder City Devils, and then this other guitar player who I think quit. Like we practiced like 2 or 3 times, and he quit because he joined this tiny band called Modest Mouse. Like to go on to like greatness.
That's funny.
I was like, he wanted to do like, he was like doing like, lighter, different stuff than I was used to. And I thought it was really cool and interesting. And then, he left, go take over the world.
So what's taking up most of your time band-wise? Is it Bitter Branches? Is it No Escape? Process Black? Like the Deadguy stuff getting back there? Like what's taking like most of your time?
I would say it's Bitter Branches. We all live near each other, and we practice once a week. And we've written 10 new songs since that EP. And we're going to record in March, like a full album. So that's taking my time. Process Black was like a project where it was Aaron, Edge, this kid Brock, who I've never met. No, he's not a kid. Drummer from Seattle. Like they recorded this shit. Like so the way Process Black worked was the drummer sent all these drum tracks that he recorded to Aaron, who lived, I think, Portland at the time. Aaron, in his apartment, recorded all of the guitar and put it all together. And then he accidentally flattened it all, like, so it's unmixable. So he has these, like, these done baked songs that you can no longer mix, but you can throw vocals over. We ran into each other at a show. Like, can I send this to you? Sure. This is like when I had nothing on my plate. And that was just, and I found a studio. Death Wish paid for me to go to the studio for a while and, like, try to lay vocals. And I was grateful that it got me, like, the music's amazing. I was grateful that it got me out of sort of retirement, but it was the hardest time I've ever had. Because I'm used to being part of the process.
Yeah.
And, like, sort of doing my scat gibberish. Like, if you went to practice, like, I could literally just I'll sing about making coffee in the morning, and just to, like, figure out lyrical patterns and stuff like that, and just the mood of a song. And then the band reacts, and they'll stretch out the part or change the part, and there's a process. And so by the song is baked, it's like muscle memory for the song inside and out. And so laying lyrics over it, like, I just go in with a framework and I do like 6 takes and we piece it together, because I almost never sing the same twice. And with Process Black, it was just hard to do that. And it's studio time, right? Like, I'm on Death Wish's dying doing all this. So I'm like, ugh. So it was hard. This is hard to do. So Process Black takes up none of my time now, because it was just a project thing. Deadguy, right now we're just a circle of friends, text threads, and there's a documentary out that we're sort of helping with. And No Escape, those are songs we were like hanging out, and I was like, well, if we're going to hang out, might as well write some songs. And I had no intention of doing anything with them, there was no agenda. And then next thing you know, like, in the studio, I just wanted to hear how they sounded in the studio. And so next thing you know, we recorded 6 songs, and then next thing you know, people wants to put it out. So there you go. Next thing you know, I have deadlines for artwork.
Now I have to ask you, in the late '80s and, like, early '90s, were you a hip hop fan back then? Because New York was, like, booming with hip hop back in the day, like Public Enemy and KRS-One, BDP.
I liked Run DMC, KRS-One, Public Enemy. Those are like my starter drugs, right? And real early LL Cool J stuff. And it was Gus Pena, also known as Gus Straight Edge, who's sort of a New York icon. And he's a New York hardcore, the way it is poster. Like, he was at every show, and known for his stage diving prowess and stuff like that. He and I were buddies, and he sent me, like, I think the side-by-side demo that became their 7-inch and some other stuff. And on the flip side was Public Enemy and some other hip-hop stuff. Because every New York kid that I knew was, like, equally into hip-hop as much as they were hardcore. Like, it was like a parallel. KRS is on, like, the Sick of All album, stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Side-by-side, 3 guys on the side-by-side 7-inch. That's LL Cool J, just traced to look like a hardcore kid.
Yeah.
So yeah, Public Enemy really, I was like, this shit's fucking pissed. Like, and they have a right, they have a reason to be pissed, and I fucking loved hip hop. And then NWA came out and blew my mind. And I worked at a record store when that came out, and I was like, holy fuck! Like, West Coast is even more pissed off than East Coast.
Yeah, I know.
And then I lost interest when it got a little bit about bling and stuff like that. I just lost interest. You know what I mean? Like, I still like things like I forget some of the not Outcast, but the very cute. I don't know. I did this Tribe Called Quest, but I still liked a lot of it. But I wasn't like, some kind of I wasn't like looking for the next hip-hop record or anything like that.
Yeah. All right. Well, like I said, I don't want to take up too much of your time. So usually at the end of talks, I usually do a little quick rapid fire, and try to do this real quick. My first question is your favorite all-time New England hardcore band.
New England hardcore band. Ooh. God, that's tough because there's the DYS or SSD. I don't know. It's a tie between DIS and SSD. Probably DYS. If you really made me choose the first DYS album.
Now, were you a Slapshot fan too back then,
Really.
or Negative FX? Did you like Negative FX
Like,
too? I love that. I love that stuff. That stuff's so good.
yeah. And I mean, I made Slapshot t-shirts, you know. But I'm trying to. And Slapshot, you know, might be up there too. But something about that DYS, I don't know. I don't know. But there's something about Get It Away that fucking is mind blowing. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't realize is how much Get It Away is responsible for the early Youth of Today sound. You know what I mean? How much Youth of Today, that whole like, and I thought like when that all that stuff was getting kind of copied and copied and copied, I'm like, you guys need to go to the source and just listen to DYS and SSD, and instead of like copying a copy of a copy of a copy, which is what I thought was starting to happen. You know?
Yeah. It kind of like bandwagoned everything like in the all of a sudden it got pushed together and everybody kind of sounded like that. But SSD, like you said,
Ugly and unapologetic. Those bands seem to be, you know. Whether you agree with them or not, I just sort of liked that was their thing. You know what I mean? I just like that. You know, it's like what I like when Democrats have balls. You know, as opposed, you know what I mean? It's like that's what it feels like to me. You know, it's like, you know, I think I see people Bernie. He's not like a whiny Democrat. He's like a fuck you Democrat.
yeah, yeah.
Those like, you
All right, my second question: what was the first punk hardcore show you attended?
Circle Jerks, DOA, and I forget who else at the Ritz in New York in like '85.
Wow, that's a big first one.
Oh, I regret that I didn't go to the show before that with Dead Kennedys and like Social Story. You know? Like fuck, you
know. All right, my next question: all-time favorite punk hardcore show you played? I mean, it could be a couple because I mean you've been in a bunch of bands, but what stood out to you the most? Like when you played?
Anytime I played CBGB was like a fucking dream come true. I mean, yeah, that's hard to even like quantify because like the first Anthrax show, I still have super fond memories of. You know, there's a No Escape show where like something went off in the crowd, like tear gas or something, and it was like an insane show. And there was a confrontation between our bass player and someone, and then we played our next song. And I've never been so full of adrenaline in my life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Shit like that. I don't know. There's so many they all blur together, but you know, there's. I don't know. I did like when we got heckled sometimes. You know, like because people thought we were cocktail or something, and we're so not. You know, and there's one show we played, I think, in Texas, where someone was yelling stuff at us and calling us fags or something. I forget. And our bass player, goodbye, is like, "Oh yeah, well, I'm gonna fuck your dick. How about that?" Like, you know, things that I remember fondly. Or there's a place here in Philly called the Church, right? Because it's been doing shows since the '90s, if not early. And I've seen a million bands there, and I played there a bunch of times. And when Deadguy got together, Crispy's like, "I'll never forget, man, when we played the Church. You started the set by going, 'I'd like to thank God for letting us play in his basement.'" And I have no memory of that, but you know, I have a fond memory of him. Or yeah, I could ramble on forever, but like when Rorschach did a reunion tour, they would every city they went, they'd try to find someone to get up on stage and sing Black Flag to them. So I was the one in Philly who did, and this is when my kids were little. They'd never seen or heard me do any of this stuff, and it was at the church, and I got up there and did a Black Flag with Rorschach, which is basically Kiss the Pie, and my kids are corner with headphones on, kind of stuff. So that's a super cool, fun memory. But I don't know. It's like it's weird. I don't think about it in terms of shows. Like every show has like moments, and those are the things. Like there's like the kitty litter show in Boston we played, where
Yeah,
you know there's stuff like that, right? These sort of anecdotes that come to mind.
yeah. There wasn't the sewage pipe broke, and they poured kitty litter all over the floor, and it was a big dustbin of sewage, scent, and kitty litter.
Yeah, I think Al Quint might have reminded me of that like a couple of years ago. Like, oh yeah, yeah. And like I don't know. It's one of those you look back and like fondly about all that shit because it's all crazy, you know.
Yeah, that's amazing. All right, my next question: all-time favorite punk hardcore show you attended, as, like watching as a somebody that walked into the show and saw
Um,
something that just blew you away.
it, I mean, it's like pick a CBGB's show. It would be a Gorilla Biscuits or Use Today's show at CBGB's in their heyday when the place just or sick of it all. I don't know. It's like, I mean, the Underdog record release show was amazing. So many amazing shows. God, to pick one. I mean, for me personally, it might have been the first time I saw Youth of Today at CBGB, and I got up on stage to sing some song that really resonated with me because I pissed at somebody, and like Ray put his arm around me, and we like ran across stage singing the song together for a hot minute, and that was like for the longest time best memory of the show. So
Yeah,
that
yeah, that's amazing. I was lucky. I was lucky enough to get to see you today, Biscuits and Agnostic Front back in the day in Bern, and it was in Boston, of course, but it was always like a great time. I was a young teenager. I think I started going to shows when I was well, my first show was 11 years old, and then I waited till I was 15 because, like I always say, it scared the shit out of me when I was 11. I went there. I was like, oh, I don't know. Like I loved the music and the energy. I was just kind of scared because I was a little too young. And then once I turned 15, like I was down at the channel and that like every weekend. So, like I said, it's like I'm just lucky enough to see those bands, and it's amazing that we're at TBGB's in the heyday of all that amazing stuff that happened.
yeah, feel lucky, right? You know, it's like to grow up close to that a train ride away and have your friends be into the same thing, like my best friend, and yeah, it's
Now,
cool.
did you go up to Boston when your brother was going to college up there to go see shows?
Yeah, I saw a couple of shows there at the Rat, or like I remember seeing Uniform Choice there when they were in their more rock phase, and they had like the long, like being super disappointed because
Yeah.
aesthetics mattered to me a little bit. Like the first time I saw Fugazi, Ian MacKay had a full head of hair. I was like, he's supposed to have a shaved head. Wrong. Yeah, we'd go up there, and he like ice cream with the dude from Wreck Crew, and like he's part of the little scene there.
Yeah.
Boston's way too cold in the winter, man. Like you don't have to go up there in the winter.
Yeah. Tell me, New Hampshire's even worse. once you hit that border, you go down a little bit lower in the degree area. So yeah, New Hampshire's rough.
Yeah.
All right, my next question: what was the last movie you watched?
The last movie I watched, uh, Wonder Woman. It was terrible.
Yeah, it was terrible.
Yeah, that was fucking dog shit. I was excited for that.
Yeah, yeah. I was hoping for goodness, but it did. Yeah, you're right. It was shit. It was way too long too, and there was like no action like for an hour and a half, and even when there was action, there was like 5 minutes at the end. And then what's his name? The main villain guy. What a like! All of a sudden, he just rolled over and was a nice guy. I was like, get the fuck out of here with this movie.
Walked out of the woods, like the whole fucking mess. You're like, I can't believe it's the same people who did the last movie.
Yeah, it was a train wreck. Definitely, I agree. My next question: favorite all-time horror movie?
Probably. Well, it used to be Nightmare on Elm Street or Scream, like those classics. But then what's that one? Is it Get Out? The one where it's a secretly racist family that kidnaps black people, and
Yeah, that is Get Out. Yeah,
that's probably my fucking favorite horror movie now.
yeah, that
Like,
was good. Have you seen Us? The same director did that. That was pretty good too.
yeah, I like that a lot too. Yeah.
I always say like if you have seen Hereditary, I don't know if you've ever seen that movie, but to me that's probably the best horror movie in the past like 5 years. And I'm not a huge horror movie guy because they're all the same to me. I mean, how many times can you have a fucking ghost in your house that like you see some shit and you're still living in the house, you know? It's just, but if you do get to see Hereditary, I suggest watching it. And finally, my last question is: we talked about hip hop a little bit. I used to go to a lot of hip hop shows and record a lot of hip hop shows. If you have been listening to hip hop recently, what have you been listening
to? I don't think I have been listening to it recently, but like, who do I like? I mean, Kendrick Lamar was the last one that really blew my mind. I never got into like Kanye, and now he's fucking nuts. Yeah, I don't follow it enough though. You know?
Yeah. Do you go back to the classics?
I mean, I still listen to Public Enemy. You know, I put a playlist together for Revelation, and I had to put Public Enemy on there. Like, I still Chuck D's voice to me is.
Yeah. Have you heard the new Public Enemy that they just put out? Like maybe I thought it was like 6 months ago or something like that.
Yeah, briefly, but I'm sort of an old head. I get stuck and like I end up listening to the old stuff. But what was that band with Killer Mike? Like I was listening to that for a little bit.
Oh, Run the Jewels.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's some good stuff. Definitely. Speaking of hip hop, while we were talking, DJ Maceo from De La Soul popped in here, was watching us for a second.
That's cool. Yeah. That's old school. I understand. You know, like yeah.
So like I said, I don't want to take much of your time. I know family is a big thing on Sundays for me too as well. Tim, I want to thank you so much taking the time out to join us. I appreciate it. I hope this year is a safe one, and hopefully COVID gets like controlled, and we can see a Deadguy reunion because I would love to see that. And I just want to say thank you. And
like Zoom and Instagram friends now. Like, but the nice thing is, like, as much as I fucking hate social media on some level, like there's a lot of people like you that I've met, that I'm like, I can't wait to play shows now because I feel like I'm gonna see these people in person and I'm gonna forget everybody's names because I'm already terrible at names, and I'm gonna know them by like their Instagram handle. You know, I'll be like, "What's up, new lexicon?" Like,
yeah. Yeah, I'm the same way. I'm so bad with names. Somebody will say a name to me, and like within 5 minutes, I'm like, "Oh, what's that guy's name?" I'm so bad.
I think I might like wear a name tag when I play shows, just so I have on their name.
It's amazing.
I mean, I'm humbled that you'd wanted to talk to me. So, you know, I appreciate it, man. Yeah.
Like I said, if you need anything, I can help out with anything or whatever. Hit me up. And I hope you have a great night and stay safe.
Yeah, you too, man.
All right, Tim. It's good talking to you.
Take care.
Peace.